Hey everyone, the Glitch channel recently released the first episode of the strangest yet most entertaining animated series of 2023, The Amazing Digital Circus. I can't help but break down the first episode for you, but before you watch my analysis, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and write your opinion about the series in the comments. The first episode is called Pilot, which means this is just the beginning. After watching the series, I realized why this series has gained such a huge popularity among the viewers on YouTube. The whole series is imbued with a huge amount of secrets and mysteries that will haunt you throughout the first series. Let's start watching and analyzing Amazing Digital Circus, Pilot in parallel. The series begins by introducing us to the first character, Kane. He is introduced to us as an entertainer, which is partly true, but he is actually someone else in this circus, but we will talk about that later. After the greeting, we see the other characters, Gangle, Zubul, Kinger, Ragatha, Jax, and Kaufmo. But unfortunately, Kaufmo will not be in the series today. After all this, we are shown the main character, but she is not named. Then we see a door. Remember this information because it will be useful in the future. After that, our nameless heroine tries to take off the virtual reality helmet, but we can clearly see that she does not have a helmet. So she came here from another world, and the helmet is the mediator between the worlds. Our clown tries his best to take off his headset, but when he realizes that it's gone, he's really surprised by everything that's happened. A very important note is that in this world you cannot use mother tongue. The heroine tries to speak, but all her words just can't come out of her mouth. Next, the characters are revealed little by little. The most memorable is Jax. He presents himself as the kind of tough guy that these high school kids are. Ragatha is by far the calmest and the only one who really wants to help the main character calm down. We also learn from Jax that Kinger is the oldest resident of the Amazing Digital Circus. Kaney then gives a tour of the compound, but at one point he starts to freak out. This is after he decides to say what there is to do here. Maybe his words about the Shirama pools or the golf are lies to appease the clown, and then we're left with a void. Kane immediately made it clear that there was something wrong with the place, since even he never goes there. But what is the nature of this emptiness? That will be hinted at later in the series, and I'll be sure to tell you everything I can find out. Remember I said Kane wasn't just an entertainer, he was something else. Kane is the manager of this circus. It is easy to understand when he shows his hundreds of eyes, thanks to which, as he hinted, he watches all the characters and everything that happens in this place. Once again, the protagonist notices the same door as at the beginning of the series. After telling the other inhabitants of the circus about the door, she was sure that now she could find out everything and leave quietly. But no one but her knows or has ever seen a door. And Kaney clearly knows something about it, but tries to convince everyone else that it's just a digital hallucination. I think you're as tired as I am of calling our clown the protagonist. But she must have a name. But when Kaney decided to ask her, there was no way she could remember her name, which is already weird. Kaney then pulled out a slot machine out of nowhere, which gave the main character a new name. Pomni. Thank God we'll only call her that from now on. Then we are introduced to another character, Zubul. She is a somewhat mean and arrogant woman who is only interested in her own desires. She is also very cold-blooded, which can be seen in her behavior towards Jax. A new word appears on the screen, gloinks. But who or what is it? After a few seconds, we get an explanation about them. Gloinks are little monsters that look a lot like geometric shapes. They really remind me of something. Maybe it's a reference or maybe it's just a coincidence. Write your opinion in the comments. I think only a few people noticed that when Kane announced that the adventure was about to begin, Pomni didn't quite understand what it was and why it was necessary. But Ragatha explained it to her by saying, to keep from going crazy. I don't think you got that, but it's a very important detail. Remember Kaufmo, the character missing from the show? So the guys decided to go look for him. Afterwards, Kinger clarified that he was probably crazy because a few days before he kept talking about a way out. The same thing happens to Pomni now. After a short conversation, Jax leaves with Ragatha and Pomni in search of Kaufmo. The nature of Gangle and Kinger's characters has now been revealed. Gangle is a very vulnerable girl who is dependent on her surroundings. This can be understood by how desperate she was to get everyone together to help Zobla. Kinger, although the oldest in the circus, is not a leader, but is insecure and very afraid. As Ragatha tells Pomni about the rooms they are resting in, you can see that each room has a picture of a character on it. But if we look closely, on one of the rooms we can see that the picture of a pink character unknown to us is crossed out. What does this mean? Did this character manage to get out of the digital circus, or did he disappear somewhere? I will tell you about it later, because what I found out is really very interesting. It's the same with a lot of other characters that we probably won't see in the show. Also, in one of the rooms we see someone who looks a lot like Kinger. Maybe it was his brother or father. As you can easily guess, this character is no longer in the show, and maybe it is his loss that caused all the unhappiness and psychological problems of our Kinger. After telling us that almost everyone who got into the circus tried to find a way out, Ragatha starts to get very nervous. This is also worth remembering, as this fact will be one of the main mysteries of the series. When they enter Kaufmo's room, the first thing they see are very strange drawings on the walls, and then an unusual monster appears in front of them. It's important to note that the guys definitely didn't get the room mixed up, as there was a portrait of Kaufmo hanging on the wall. But what's more important is that all the walls are painted with the same inscription, Exit. There is also the inscription, No Way Out. I noticed a drawing of Kaufmo running away from a scary creature. At first I thought it might be a cane, but the shape of the teeth doesn't look like the ones our administrator had. At this point, Ragatha tells Pomni that this very monster is Kaufmo. She also mentions some sort of line, and that if it is crossed, the circus inhabitant will vanish. For the sake of simplicity, let's call this monster Kaufmo. So Kaufmo attacked Ragatha, but did not start acting for a long time. Maybe some of the character's soul is still inside these monsters, and that's why they can control themselves for a short time. Then things get very strange. Ragatha starts to glitch very badly and asks Pomni for help. Pomni couldn't refuse and reached out her hand, but as soon as they touched, there was a burst of energy like a stun gun, and Pomni immediately pulled her hand back. But her hand began to glitch as well. You could see that Pomni was very scared. As she started to run, she tried her best to make sure that Kaufmo couldn't touch her. A little distracted, they move on to Kinger and Gangle, still trying to help the Zooble, some of whom were carried off by the Gloinks. When they see Jax, they ask how Kaufmo is, but Jax, realizing the danger of the situation, decides to deceive his friends by saying that Kaufmo is fine. After going down a slide, the characters come to Gloink's secret lair, where they meet the main Gloink, who is much bigger than all the other characters put together. I also noticed that this monster has a lot of eyes, the same pattern seen in Kaufmo. In this case, Kaufmo has become Gloink, not some unusual monster. In the flashback to the moment when the characters first see the new version of Kaufmo, they are more startled than surprised. So this isn't the first time this has happened, which means that there are some Gloinks in this circus that everyone knows about that can turn ordinary citizens into themselves. This is what the next scene tells us, in which Pomni and Ragatha meet again. After a long conversation, Pomni shows his hand, and Ragatha says that they have to find Kane, because only he can fix Ragatha and take care of Kaufmo. But the most important detail of this scene is Pomni's hand. Look closely, it has stopped glitching. You might think it was a cinematographer's mistake, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't, because this show is too well designed and made to make such a mistake. And I also know why Pomni's hand looks like that, but I'll tell you about that soon. During the editing process, I realized that there is too much material for one video, so I decided to split this analysis into 2 parts. I hope you enjoyed my analysis, and while you're waiting for the second part, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as well as like and comment. See you in the next video.